It's a review. What's up, everybody? Frank Giovetti here, Be Frank Brands. Issa review. We're talking about episode 2 of The Last Dance, produced by ESPN, about the Chicago Bulls of the 1990s. So, episode 2, the primary focus is Scottie Pippen. When I was playing basketball growing up, most of my coaches and those instructing me always talked about the importance of Scottie Pippen and his game being the number 2 player behind Michael Jordan. Scottie Pippen was willing to do all the things that needed to happen for a championship team. He rebounded, he played unbelievable defense, and he gave great effort. I liked him personally growing up because he was dunking on everybody and throwing shots into the third row. Now, back when this was happening, I was probably 6 or 7, and I wasn't as keen on the business side for obvious reasons, but it was very enlightening seeing how underpaid Scottie Pippen was for his contribution to the team. I was a little disappointed in Michael. He came out even in this documentary years later, and he said he was disappointed in Scottie Pippen. He had given that team 5 championships alongside Michael Jordan. He was first or second in pretty much all statistical categories, and he was certainly their most important piece behind the superstar. I'll be honest with you, I actually gained a lot of respect for Scottie Pippen. He gave the city 5 championships and then wanted to negotiate in his last year. These days, if an athlete feels like they're underpaid in their first or their second year, they're holding out. The problem was only exacerbated by Bulls management and ownership because they wanted to do a deal at the beginning and not renegotiate through, which I could understand from the business side. However, this was in a time period where the Bulls had won these championships, Scottie had contributed, and salaries were exploding across the league. And understanding where he came from with his family of 12 children, I think it was, and fighting through what he had to grow up with, he accepted his first 7-year deal because he wanted to take care of his family and then not have to worry about it. It's understandable for a kid that comes from nowhere to want to have some security for the first time in his life. So the latter half of the episode goes back to Michael Jordan's journey in his second year, coming off of a Rookie of the Year season. Michael's world-famous work ethic and desire to win is fully on display in this episode as he breaks a bone in his foot and then fights with management to come back for the playoffs, willing his team into a playoff spot against the Boston Celtics. The Celtics were freaking loaded at this time. Larry Bird, Dennis Johnson, Robert Parrish, Kevin McHale, Bill Walton, unbelievable. One of my favorite parts of the episode was seeing that series and seeing how Michael put up 40 in the first 2 games in the Garden against Larry Bird and his guys. We get some insight from Magic Johnson as well, talking about how they knew that Jordan was the next coming of the great NBA player. We also took a look at Michael Jordan's coming up through high school, not making the varsity team as a sophomore, growing 4 inches and developing athletically to all of a sudden attract the attention of Roy Williams, Dean Smith, and North Carolina. This was another point I heard all the time when I was growing up, how Michael Jordan, the greatest player of all time, was cut as a sophomore in high school. I think it's an interesting note that when Charles Oakley was traded, sort of the protector of Michael Jordan throughout his first 2 seasons, the rift that started when he was held out was certainly expanded. The last note I want to make about this episode is about competition in athletes. I think we're seeing 2 of the greatest competitors and one of the greatest coach competitors of all time in this documentary. I'm not as keen personally as much anymore on competition, but I think it's a really interesting case study. We get personal profiles of Michael and Scottie when they're growing up in their homes, their difficulties that they went through, plus how their families played into their competitiveness. So much of who we become, we can attribute to our childhood, for better or for worse. Both players were raised in modest households, and we see later in their lives the work ethic that was instilled from when they were younger. That's what I got for episode 2. I look forward to watching the rest of the series, and I also look forward to hearing what you think about it. Send me a DM, send me an email, let me know what you think. Look forward to chatting more with you.